Edit
That'll
out.
probably get cut. That was 3 minutes of nothing.
Yeah, cut all that out.
Thank you for tuning in to Rushy Talk with Rush Hour. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Grace Under Pressure. It's kind of a long episode, but don't let that scare you. If you can't watch the whole thing, put it on your Bluetooth speaker and listen to it while you're polishing your cymbals, or balancing your guitar tremolo, or whatever you're doing. And please feel free to join the conversation by commenting below. I'd love to hear what your experiences, your memories, and your thoughts are about Grace Under Pressure. And please subscribe below. We're going to be sending out more Rushy Talks, we're going to be sending out more cover videos, and we're also going to be sending out a bunch more original material coming up here real soon. Enjoy! So the subject today is Grace Under Pressure. What that came out, 83, 84?
I got some specs.
84.
I reviewed it. April 1984.
There you go. I remember that.
Rush's 10th studio album. Rush's 10th studio album, and also the first album where they did not use Terry Brown.
That's right. That's right.
True. So who's the producer on there? Was it Peter Collins? No.
Peter Henderson.
Yeah, Peter Henderson. And they started it themselves. They started producing themselves, and they were actually still looking for a producer while they were still touring off the Signals album. They were still trying to find someone.
That's right.
So I didn't know that. Yeah, we learn something every day. So let me see. April 1984, I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
You guys are probably, 25?
Oh.
Well, no, Chad. Reed and I were just discussing this before we started the meeting. So my experience with Grace Under Pressure, and then I'll let Reed say what we were just talking about. So that was the first brand new Rush album that I had bought once I realized I was a huge Rush fan. So the Grace Under Pressure album had just come out, and at that time, which April 1984, I had become a full-fledged obsessed Rush fan. So I remember going to buy it at the record store and blah blah blah. And so so that was a memorable album for me. And of course, my ears took a little time to get used to, because I had been listening to Exit Stage Left and Moving Pictures, of course.
Yeah.
Very cool. What about you, Reed?
Same as Sean. That was the first album, their new album, when I was actually a fan. So, I was really excited about I remember hearing about it on MTV. JJ Jackson. He was like, Rush is in the studio making a new album called Grace Under Pressure. And I was like, my eyes went, what? Rush? We're talking about Rush? And so I was pretty excited. I remember, before it even came out, I was waiting for it to come out. And then I'll never forget when they started playing it on the radio, one of my friends came up to me and said, hey, have you heard the new Rush? Tip of the Iceberg. Like, oh, really?
Tip of the Iceberg.
I heard the song. I heard Distant Early Warning, and he did say Tip of the Iceberg, and so I thought it was actually called that. But anyways, went out, picked up the album, and was I think the sound was like a fresh new sound.
Oh, totally.
As Sean was saying, we were used to listening to. Of course, Signals was still a fresh new sound too, but Grace Under Pressure just seemed like they were taking that even further. And of course, Neil that was his first album with electronic drums.
Yes,
and that was a big deal too, because all of his just his compositioning on the drums was incorporating that now, and there was a lot of sounds. Of course, as a drummer, it was kind of freaked me out, because you'd hear things and you were like, before I could kind of figure out what he was doing, but now I can't, because I don't know what that sound is, or it's these these explosion sounds and all this stuff, but man, it was exciting. And then of course I have to bring up the video to Distant Early Warning, seeing that on MTV when that finally came out. We were, they had a whole new look to them. They look kind of new wavy and
new wave. Yep. Very much new wave.
But even the video setting was very modern, like at the time, and of course the big red kit, and it was it's very exciting. I remember when that happened, you shut up, everyone shut up.
Yeah.
Looking at the TV, just staring at it, you didn't want to miss a millisecond of it. You're like, wow. And, Rush was the only band that could even do that to me. As far as MTV was concerned.
Well, it's funny. I think it's apropos that we're talking about this album today, because I messaged you guys earlier today. I was running around doing some work and errands and stuff, and listening to your typical morning show. Hey, what's up, guys? Honk, honk, buzz, buzz, weird noises. But then they rejoined with Distant Early Warning, which struck me as odd. I'm like, and I was like, holy crap, this wacky radio show in the morning is rejoining with Distant Early Warning. So I think one of the guys on there is a Rush fan. But
that's cool.
But yeah, there's such a difference. I mean, you hear coming from Signals into Grace Under Pressure. I mean, it's a whole nother band sound, you know?
I wanted to talk about that sound. So obviously you guys know the sound they were kind of harnessed, starting to get into in moving pictures with the reggae ska vibe. That came into like a lot more fruition on Grace Under Pressure, the ska reggae kind of influence. That definitely, like in a few songs you'll hear that. And that police and that police influence, I know in Neil's and Alex's playing, I'm not sure about Geddy, but they were highly influenced by the police in that era. And also I know Alex, that's really when he was doing his vibrato thing that was really influenced by Alan Holdsworth. So by Grace Under Pressure, he had that like fast vibrato thing that he got from Holdsworth. And I still remember my dad walking in my room and I was listening to Grace Under Pressure, and he was hearing that, he was hearing the whammy thing. And he said, "What is that?" It's like, "You like that?" I think those were his exact words. Like, "What is that guitar thing? You like that?" And I said, "Yeah, that's cool." I remember it was weird at the beginning, you know, listening, getting used to that. But he noticed that right away. Like, "What's that guitar sound?" And so that was another sonic change on that album as well. So, and also the Edge. Alex was really influenced by the Edge around that period. So you can hear in all the kind of slap back, delay, and echo kind of stuff that started, I think, with Grace Under Pressure. There wasn't so much of that on Signals, but then from Grace Under Pressure on through that era, he had that delay Edge kind of slapback influence thing in his guitar sound.
And I've actually talked to other musicians about the fact that I hear Edge in Lifeson's playing during
definitely,
that time. But some guys, no, you're crazy. But I'm like, I don't know, man.
You're not going to hear it in Fly By Night. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Grace Under Pressure also, I think, as far as Alex Lifeson, from what I remember, it was he was coming out of that frustration of Signals. Like Signals apparently was to him was like just too keyboard heavy. And so when Grace Under Pressure came out, they were looking for that balance of where he could still be Alex, Alex Lifeson, and not be compromised by all these keyboard stuff. But what I do remember about that is back then too, I remember he won the guitar player poll, the
best guitarist
for night.
Really?
And I remember I was pretty shocked because because I used to read all those polls and stuff, and I would just assume that it would have been Eddie Van Halen or somebody that would have won that
every other year though.
Of course he did, of course. But I remember it was like I was shocked to see that Alex Lifeson had won that. I was like, wow, for Grace Under Pressure, so he must have really as far as in the guitar community, he must have made a statement of some sort, because to win that, it's pretty awesome, especially in '84 when all of the in the heyday of all the shredder guitar players that were ruling, come out, right? So for Alex Lifeson to come out and take that was like, wow, that's pretty impressive.
Well, and that's a statement too. That's a whole nother episode there talking about why I think Alex Lifeson on some levels is underrated, because I don't think people realize what a good guitar player is and what his influence on rock and roll music as a whole was. But that's a whole nother topic. So
exactly.
But yeah, you're right, Sean, about the reggae and the police thing too. I mean, The Enemy Within, that's basically a police song. I mean, I can almost hear the police doing that,
Right. And what's interesting about Grace Under Pressure, I actually kind of thought about this and took some notes down. It was a bleak vibe, of course, on Grace Under Pressure. And Reed's funny, your friend said something about an iceberg. Well, I mean, if you saw the Grace Under Pressure
tip of the iceberg was he thought the title was because
probably didn't know what he was looking at or whatever.
Right. No, it's just because of the lyrics,
That's so funny. But it's about a post-apocalyptic future, and there were you guys remember, well, Chad, I know you were pretty young, but I remember in the 80s that Cold War thing. It was terrible.
We were all scared. We were all scared to death of nuclear war.
Yeah. That was a serious fear back in that time. And so that's kind of what the theme of the whole album is. And I think we can probably just kind of briefly touch on every song on the album, but some are more involved than others. But remember, what is it? The Enemy Within, isn't that part one of the Fear trilogy?
It would be because they went backwards.
That's part of the Fear trilogy. So I mean, there's Neil's epic there on Fear. We're talking about the whole Fear thing. Anyway, the vibe of Grace Under Pressure is definitely like kind of a stressful theme.
But it's Red Sector A and the Holocaust.
Holocaust. Yeah, that's right.
Well, and And I think the subtext of that is humanity. Like in this post-apocalyptic world, how do people deal? You know, like your inner battles, your inner turmoils, survival or doing what's right. You know, those kinds of things. You know,
how lucky were they to have a lyricist like Neil to be able to even, you know, when, you know, it's just what we're talking about right here. It's like one album, Grace Under Pressure, touches on all these different. You know, of course, it's the same theme, but so many different topics that relate to that. Whether even like the Body Electric, that's another one. You know, where you know, Android world and but yeah, we could go on. I mean. You know,
so briefly, I actually let's talk about like the music and the aspect. And I know, Reed, you want to talk about electronic drums, especially like Red Lenses and those that tune.
Oh yeah.
But I just was gonna say, going down each tune, if you guys want to chat each tune. Distant Early Warning, the first, you know, when we used to listen to albums, the first track was of course just Fear of Nuclear War, and there was like some station or something in Alaska or some in the Arctic somewhere that was the warning station for nuclear threat. So that's Distant Early Warning. That's kind of what the vibe is there. And of course, you were just talking about the video with the kid riding the missile and all that.
Who I heard someone told me also said, "Hey, that's Alex Lifeson's son," and I said, "I don't think so, but whatever."
That's funny. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I was gonna say that of course was the most popular tune off of that album. But
was it? I guess I thought Red Sector A was, but maybe you're right. Maybe it was Distant Early Warning.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say Distant Early Warning.
I think that is the, you know, being the first thing from the album that you heard, and the video, like I said, you know, with the new look, they at the time they just were really looked like they were being very modern, you know, and for the time, of course now you look at it, it might not seem that way, but I think that the sound though was definitely. It was a great opening track for the album because I think that, of course, you know, playing into the theme of what it was about, but also I think that musically, it just hits you right away with that just, even though it's that reggae groove, you know, you're talking about the Police, you know, at the beginning, you know, with the kick drum on 3, but then it just goes into, you know, by the time they come in with that keyboard riff and the verse, you know, it's unmistakable Rush, you know, it was like. So it was just a killer first track. Definitely, it was like I'm sure they didn't have any problem deciding on that being the first track of the album. You know,
that tune annihilates everything.
Yeah.
Killer.
It's got that really cool squirrely intro. That's
sound
kind of 2112-ish in a way, you know, a little bit. Just shorter.
Okay, I have to confess something too about the video. I thought that those 3 guys that were in the suits sending those kids off on that missile was Rush.
That's funny.
I did. I thought, you know, because I didn't know MTV. I just thought you were going to be in your own video there. Wow, that must be Neil, you know, giving the thumbs up in that suit.
That's
but
great.
It was not, I'm sure. You know?
Right. Oh, I'm sure it wasn't. No,
that's funny. Anyways,
that's awesome.
That's cool. Well, let's say the next track is After Image. And of course, now that Neil passed, you know, I know a lot of people kind of put those lyrics in kind of in a retrospective type of thing, you know, with Neil. But originally, I remember it was one of Neil's friends who passed away that Neil wrote about. But I found out it was a guy named Robbie Whalen, who was a friend of the band. And he was a tape operator at Le Studio who was killed in a car accident.
Oh, geez.
So it was... The band was friends with this person.
Well, and it kind of fits that post-apocalyptic thing too, in a way, because if you think about, you know, like Red Dawn, a bunch of people huddled in a shed in the winter fighting the Russians, you know, but then they're sitting there reminiscing, you know, about, you know, I remember, you know, that they lost a comrade, and I remember, you know, talking voices and blah blah blah.
Yeah, that After Image video, isn't it set to some type of it's very bizarre. It's almost like a weird Britain type of vibe.
Yeah.
Aren't they just playing? I thought they were just kind of playing through most of it, right?
They're kind of playing, but
there's some like, theatricals in there though. Like a little kid. Looks like a funeral. A funeral type of setting.
Yeah,
they go to that briefly, but it is mostly just that, which I love is the video is mostly on the band.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's why I love that video. But
and that's the first song that Geddy doesn't play bass on.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So in the whole catalog up to that point, that's the first time Geddy put down the bass altogether and said, "I'm just going to be a keyboard player for this one." Now, whether they recorded that one before or not, we can debate that. But I mean, as far as release. I mean, that's the first
Right,
time on
right.
the album that Geddy.
I think that and Red Sector A are the only songs he's ever done that for. No, maybe not. I think he did do on Scars on Presto, where he's not playing bass because that's a bass loop. But anyway, we're not talking about Presto.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. After Image too, I'd like to point out that I think even when I first heard the track, I was just blown away of just how the energy of it. But I also noticed right away that I felt like there was some kind of passion going on with the drumming with Neil, and you could really tell too when you see the video, just the look on the serious. It's almost like he's about to cry or something.
Yes. Yeah.
And I admit I really didn't know what lyrically that song was even about when I first heard it. I didn't even put it together. I just after Image, what's this? Then it comes in just cranking. You're just like, whoa! I liked it. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
And the playing on it, just Neil played with so much passion on that. But all of them do.
Right,
I mean that song is full of. I think Alex too is like, man, Alex really plays great stuff on that song.
Yeah, very emotional.
And to the point where even I guess for Geddy not to be playing bass on there, you don't even miss it because. You can say, because even when it took me probably a while to even realize that Geddy, there's no bass on this song.
Yeah,
Where's the bass guitar? There is none, I guess. And you had to think about am I right? Go listen to it again. But yeah, After Image, really strong song to me on that album.
Yeah, I agree. So let's say the next song, Red Sector A, which we already discussed, that tune is apparently about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Because I guess Neil read a first-person account of someone who survived the Holocaust, and I mean, I think there was something about someone that said he wrote it for Geddy, but I think it's Neil's interpretation of a first-person account of someone who went through the Holocaust.
Geddy just related to it because of what happened to his parents. So, but I think you're right about that, though. It was another quick touch on the electronic drums he plays in that. Just the brilliant setup of having the satellite kit and the way he composed that song on that kit, using both kits, parts of both kits. I don't know. It's like maybe you should cut that out too. I don't want to get too nerdy on this stuff.
The rotating kit.
We're not talking about drumming, but it was just
that's a big part of it. He used the rotating kit live. Right.
I think that was just very innovative. Neil was very innovative on that album, and especially on that. In fact, that track and, of course, Red Lenses, where he really featured the new electronic kit, the satellite kit. Just mind-blowing, for a young drummer to already be into Neil, and you've already heard Exit Stage Left and all that stuff. And you wonder to yourself, well, where can he go? How can he get better? And then Grace Under Pressure comes out, and you hear this, and it's just like, oh my God, this is like, this is from outer space somewhere, I don't even know how can he do this, and of course, I also would bring up that, and this is not just about the song, but just about the whole Rush, the sound of Rush and how they changed. I noticed even from Signals that there were people that were kind of like turned off by it,
Yes,
definitely. But I noticed a lot of those same people eventually came around. Years later, all of a sudden they're like, "Yeah, I like Grace Under Pressure."
Right.
They just didn't like it when it came out.
It was too ahead of its time for the
very much
the rock purists. The rock and roll purists. Like, Rush has got keyboards. Oh my God, that's
yeah. So that was a big deal to some people that only liked the bass drums and guitar part of Rush.
Yeah, and it was the biggest quantum leap in their development too.
I
mean, every album was sort of incrementally changing, but between Signals and that, I mean,
it was a big
Geddy put down the Rickenbacker and picked up a headless bass, a Steinberger, for God's sakes. They started dressing like the 80s. They're using electronics and keyboards. I mean, even more stuff. And it's not the old analog-y stuff that they were using on Signals. It's the new modern digitally sounded stuff, So I mean, that was a huge chasm between those two albums, And I can imagine some guy that's a rocker dude, who loves 2112. Oh, the new Rush album's Grace Under Pressure, the Iceberg, whatever. Puts it on. And it's like, what? But yeah, like Sean said, in hindsight, a lot of people have come around to say, wow, most people, there's still some people that hold out and still have a contempt for the 80s Rush.
Oh, yeah. But
there's some fans that it's their favorite now.
My brother, he loves the 80s stuff is his favorite.
Yeah. Mine too, really. I mean, if I had to, pick one, I probably would pick that too,
Yeah.
But anyways, Grace Under, Red Sector A, that was the for me the big part of it was definitely that what Neil was doing on that. And The Enemy Within.
Enemy Within, yeah. So
Man, just killer.
Yeah, the Enemy Within, apparently, you know, that was part of the Fear trilogy, but that particular song was Neil being introspective, apparently, because the other two Fear trilogy tunes were like, you know, Witch Hunt, that's about other people's fear of like scary things or whatever. Literally, that's what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah, Enemy Within was about self-fear, you know, like
the Enemy Within, and it's specifically Neil being fearful from within of yourself, and apparently he didn't want to be introspective about that topic or whatever, or just introspective at all, apparently, when he was writing that. But yeah, that's what it is, self-fear, and then more specifically, I think his personal experience with fear. So
right.
I was gonna say, and if you listen to the lyrics, I think it's actually kind of a positive tune, because he's not looking out for security under pressure. You know, he's not giving up on implausible dreams, meaning he's not going to be held down by whatever internal fears he has. And that's what the I think throughout that whole song, you know, I'm not giving up on implausible dreams, experience to extremes, you know.
Right.
So, and he definitely liked to experience to extremes from the way it seemed. So
to me, that song, when I first heard it, I think it was the bass line that blew my mind. I was like, whoa, Geddy. Man, Geddy's just killing it on that, you know.
Right.
You know, but
and
of course,
more
feel, you know,
reggae ska-ish rhythmic stuff going on. So
again, police song.
Yeah.
But like I said, it was the bass line. But you're right, the ska groove, that was all kind of new. The whole feel of that for Rush was different, you know. And but there again, it embodied the whole Rush sound, which made it okay to me, you know. You know, going back to what I was saying about other people that were like, they didn't really like the new Rush sound or whatever. I was never on board with that. Every time someone said that to me, I was just like, screw you, man. You know,
you don't get it.
New Rush. I don't know. Rush was just one of those bands to me that couldn't do no wrong. You know,
exactly.
It's like whatever they did, I just liked it. You know, no matter what kind of style they were trying to go into, it still sounded like them, and that always appealed to me. You know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was going to be quality, and they were perfectionists, so you know it was gonna be good no matter
the
what.
integrity of the band always went with them, you know, no matter what they did. The attention to detail, the work, you know, the craftsmanship of everybody's part, you know, was always there. You know, it didn't matter what they were doing. So you know, if they were doing really keyboard heavy stuff or experimenting with different types of styles like reggae and whatever, you know, I was always down with it, you know. But yeah, Grace Under Pressure was one of those albums that I remember some people, some of the more rockers, you know, were a little maybe turned off by it a little bit, you know?
Yeah, think about it, because like, you know, back when we were in high school, junior high age, you know, Iron Maiden was huge, you know, and a lot of the rockers loved the rock and Rush stuff and Iron Maiden. But when Rush kind of took that more synthy, poppy, you know, keyboard route, and started having those other influences like ska, reggae, etc. You know, the Iron Maiden fans were like, man, what's up with Rush?
Oh yeah,
you know? And it's like you could just see that. I mean, I love Iron Maiden, but yeah, that's what was. I remember that was going on with all the rock.
Oh yeah, I was dealing with the same thing, you know.
And the flip side of that is if you couldn't feel or see or hear that Rushy thread through that 80s stuff, maybe you didn't really get the 70s stuff. You know, that's always been my thought. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Rush, they went through so many changes anyways. I mean, there were people that probably were turned off by Tom Sawyer because there was keyboard, and I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, as in comparison to you know, Working Man or Fly By Night or other just more especially, or 2112, that became their distinctive, you know, that sound that everyone connected with from the early Rush.
Okay, so Reed, you did bring up a topic. So you brought up 2112, which has a cool song on it called The Twilight Zone that we will talk about in another Rushy Talk. But the next song on Grace Under Pressure is The Body Electric, which I did not know this, but The Body Electric was apparently influenced by a Twilight Zone episode.
I did not know that either.
Nice.
Yeah. It's
nice segue
cool.
there, Sean.
Yeah. Well,
nice segue, Sean. That was good.
Well, the whole you know, concept of Grace Under Pressure in the post-apocalyptic future and that kind of thing. You know, the Body Electric is, you know, if you read it like literally, or watch the video, it's a robot trying to escape his whatever, his government or something like that, or trying to overthrow the ruler or power. So, but apparently Neil was influenced by a Twilight Zone episode called "I Sing the Body Electric," and I actually just saw part of this the other day. I had never seen that episode. A family orders a robot grandmother after their grandmother passes away. So I never knew that, but it's really funny. I didn't actually get to watch the whole Twilight Zone episode, but it was interesting.
Robot Grandma, there's a band name.
Yeah, Robot Grandma.
And Body Electric, I also was also a radio song for them.
Oh yeah,
that I remember.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I used to hear it on the radio a lot, and it used to surprise me to hear it because I used to think, like, oh, this is a weird pick from this album. And of course, you don't, that was when the album came out. They would play a lot more of it, and they probably played some other stuff. I mean, I think it was Disorderly Warning, Red Sector A, and the Body Electric were the songs that you would hear on the radio.
They were
so yeah, Body Electric also, I think Neil there again was a great hybrid use of his acoustic kit with electronic sounds. I think it was one of the first songs where he really got into that too, as far as not on the exclusively on the electronic, but incorporating those sounds while he played his kit, and he did a great job, nice job at that too. So another song that was like grueling if you were a drummer and you're going to try to figure that out, because you're going to hear sounds that, well, I don't have that sound, so I'll just hit my China cymbal.
Yeah.
But
and like, what about that intro, like the drum parts at the intro of that tune? It seemed like Neil, he was starting to branch off into some different types of rhythmic ideas that he hadn't done before. And, we saw a continuation of that in, on Power Windows, especially some of like exotic type rhythms, or just like interesting rhythmic patterns. I think maybe it sounded like he was almost influenced by Bruford for some of those ideas.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know about that specifically, but definitely by Bruford. I would say for the Body Electric, definitely the groove. I mean, he's always thinking about the content of the song. What is this about? And so that intro, that drum intro, really does sound like something like an android would play. It's a very, very robotic kind of groove, but then when the whole song comes in, it just takes off and it's grooving. But it's so fitting for what that song is about. When if as soon as you hear the drums come in, and if you start reading those lyrics, and one humanoid escaping, all that stuff, it just goes together. You're just like, oh yeah, this is totally and then, the visual. I mean, I'm sure he had a visual in his mind when he wrote that stuff, and lyrically and musically too. He probably had an idea. Of course, it would be great to find out. We wish we had those classic albums where they show you the making of the album.
Oh yeah,
that would be a dream to have an album like Grace Under Pressure broken down for you and explain. How'd you come up with that? But Body Electric, another brilliant song, and definitely from the drums point of view, it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely
fun song to play too.
And also that funky bass at the beginning too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a little slap plucking.
Yeah.
Is that the first slap bass on a Rush album?
I think so.
Probably, yeah. Again, it's funny when talk about every musician has their way of playing and all that stuff, but put a different piece of equipment in your hand that has a different sound, it actually leads you down different paths to do things. With that said, Geddy's now on the Steinberger. That's night and day to a Rickenbacker, so it probably opened up some doors for him, slapping and like that those reggae grooves, Enemy Within. He's just cranking on that.
That's cool. Okay, so that's Kid Gloves. So that's Body Electric. The next tune is Kid Gloves, which to me that sounds like kind of the most upbeat tune on the whole album. And,
it is,
Yeah, and when I first heard Kid, I'll talk about it first about my experience. When I first heard that tune, that thing at the beginning, I was totally freaked out. Like, what the heck's going on there? And I didn't realize it was some slapback delay effect that Alex was using. And I was like, how is he doing that?
Yeah.
It was amazing to me. And again, that is to me, that was a direct influence probably from The Edge, from U2, because The Edge was doing all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, I don't know if he was thinking that, but it sounded like that influence is in there. But it's a very, very cool intro, I think. It sounds
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
unique. I mean, I know there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on in the 80s, but
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
very unique, even for a slapback kind of thing, you know?
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, the way that arpeggiation figure is played, and that it's an odd time and everything is cool. And then the other thing about Kid Gloves on guitar is, of course, that guitar solo, which Alex has said it's his it's a toss up between that and Limelight, I think, and maybe another solo he's talked about, like Free Will.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's one of his favorite solos.
Huh.
Kid
Wow. One of mine too. Yeah.
So you're
That
doing
is
that
cool.
whammy.
Yeah. Yeah.
ridiculous. It's so in the moment improvised sounding, you know. So
Yeah, it is.
he's like just going for it. You can just tell, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
me, it was I think the riff, just hearing the title of the song "Kid Gloves" and then you hear that riff come in. And again, I was talking about the Body Electric, how Neil was able to do that. I think Alex definitely achieved that, where you as soon as the riff comes in and you hear the title of the song, it just goes together. And then it brings you to the question, like, I wonder. I would assume that these lyrics were written first and they wrote music to fit to that, you know, because it just sounds like it, you know. It's like, for that riff and the overall vibe of the song, definitely has that, what Kid Gloves, it just fits, and of course, I think the time signature the 5/4 time signature was something that when I first heard it, I mean, I didn't even know what that was, I was like, whoa, what kind of groove feel is that, but and it may have even seemed a little off at first until the rest of the song comes in, and then this is like glues together, even the way that Geddy sings his melody lines over that. And it was definitely one of those educational experiences in music, because you're hearing it and you don't know what is this odd time. I don't even know what that is. How do you, the fact that they were able to make that, was it encouraged me to explore what that was, and then eventually I learned what odd time was and all that stuff. So yeah, and I also agree that
another organic example of odd, we were talking about odd time signatures, another totally organic example of where it does not sound forced. It's just completely organic.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, and honestly, like, as far as the whole album goes, Kid Gloves, from the bass player standpoint, it's actually one of the least busy, whatever. Geddy's really just kind of following chord changes on that song, so it's kind of a departure, because the rest of the album he's just a maniac, But
no, you're right. I noticed that too. The bass does seem kind of laid back on that for
he does some really cool riffs though. I mean, the riffs are pretty signature and they fit really well with the drums, so learning that song, that's one thing that I really paid attention to, is making sure those licks that he did were correct and as always in sync with what the drums do, but But yeah, otherwise that's a pretty laid back tune as far as bass goes. But I love the lyrics to the tune.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. Everybody can relate to that.
Hard Knock School, baby.
So let's see. After Kid Gloves was Red Lenses, which I actually read that lyrically, Neil said at that time at an interview in 1984 that it was the hardest song he wrote. This is probably the hardest song I ever worked on, in spite of the pleasure it gave me. I guess he rewrote it so many times lyrically.
Wow.
So I mean, of course, I didn't know that until I read that. But
that's interesting.
I think when he talked about the pleasure it gave him, I think he really enjoyed the wordplay stuff that was going on, and that kind of stuff is really hard to write without sounding dumb. Basically, it sounds like nursery rhymish, but to put a lot of thought into that and not have some serious meaning is definitely a challenge.
And I'm not knocking that. See, I didn't know that, so maybe I'll listen to it now with fresh ears, or go back and read through the lyrics. Because, like I said, every time I hear that one, I'm like, I'm not getting it. It just sounds like a lot of rhyming. I'm like, come on, Neil. But maybe there's something I'm missing on that too. So
for me, it was definitely the playing on it, that even though the lyrics were kind of could have been taken kind of goofy, the playing on it was just by all of them. Definitely the bass and drums, and definitely the drums again. Neil with his compositioning with the electronic drums. And unfortunately, there's not really a whole lot of live footage of that out there.
No,
there's a couple bootlegs. I've never actually seen him play that song, live. So it's one of those songs too that I would never want to try to figure it out, because I don't know what he's doing on there. But using a lot of great sounds, and But definitely, I think the bass and the drums in that song are definitely. I guess that's where they're exploring some funky stuff. You know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
that's that Percy Jones influence.
that's probably what it is, and you're
I,
probably right. Yeah, that
must have
song
come.
would be. Yeah, I didn't think
Yeah,
about
I
that.
mean,
But
that must have come from somewhere. That idea popped in my head because I must have read that somewhere. And Grace Under Pressure was the first album where Geddy started playing that way on an album that I can recall. So,
you're probably right. I didn't think about that, but that song probably is an influence of somebody like Percy Jones. That almost like I said, that even though it's not a fretless bass, it's still that funky bass style.
yeah,
that
exactly.
And I used to love. I did hear. I mean, they even kept it on up through the Hold Your Fire tour, where Neil would end his solo, and then Geddy he would kind of start that pattern for
That's right.
Red Lenses, and
The
Geddy
bridge
would come
part,
out,
yeah.
and they would do like a little bass and drums groove. That always, I used to love that when that happened on the live shows. But of course, you were like, play more Red Lenses,
Yeah,
but they would only do like the ending or something like that. But yeah, man, that's a brilliant piece of music there for that, especially for that time of that album. That might be, I'm not gonna say my favorite, but one of my favorites, of course, because when I heard it, right away, the drum stood out,
right.
and I thought that that was probably if there was a drum feature on that album, it would be that song, a song that was meant to feature the drums,
Yeah,
I love that song too. I mean, the drums and the bass, of course, are stellar, but I love the vibe and the sound of that song. Just the keys in, the chord changes aren't anything crazy. Just the sound that they created, the chord progressions that they used for that tune. I just love the vibe of it. It's just so cool. And then the end, when it fades out, God, you almost just want it to keep going forever.
I know.
It's just
I know.
the coolest vibe at the end, where it sounds like Geddy and Neil are they're like improvising or playing off each other.
Yeah.
Cool. And I remember listening to that album thinking, I wonder what they did after that fade out. Like, wonder what it sounded like. What else?
Yeah.
So that song actually too, with the drum interplay and stuff, it actually kind of has sort of an Asian feel to it too, right? That's sort because like in the 80s, a lot of their songs kind of had that little flair. That's probably the first of that I can think of, especially with that like marimba, xylophone sounding things, or keyboards, whatever those were.
Tune percussion sounds.
Yeah.
They're almost like cowbells or go-go bells or something. I don't know. They're all those early 80s sounds of especially the electronics. I mean, a lot of the early 80s new wave bands were using those sounds, But so Red Lens is definitely strong, one of my favorite tracks.
To me, Between the Wheels, it totally fits the bleak post-apocalyptic vibe. And it's funny because it starts with the whole album starts with Distant Early Warning, and then it ends with Between the Wheels, and it's like a total return back to that bleak kind of vibe of the post-apocalyptic future thing. So it's first time I heard it, I was like, this is serious. It's very almost scary, intimidating sounding in a way.
Just the intro to that, and then when it kicks in, boom, I always picture that commercial from the 80s, like about the same time, the Apple commercial with the jogger running in and smashing the big screen that all the gray people are watching. You remember that commercial? But that whole intro I always picture that for some reason, because it's kind of like just this grim machine,
gloom and doom.
And then and you just want to see somebody, one person run up and smash it, ruin it all. Yeah. Check out that commercial. It'll be in this video.
I mean, that for an ending of that album too was, just like I was talking earlier about how Distant Early Warning was the perfect intro. That was the perfect outro.
Yes, definitely.
And you're right. It captures the whole feel of that theme of that album, and even more so because of what Chad was just talking about, just the feel of that. When it comes in, it's just like gives you, and of course, I think a lot of people would agree that that's one of Alex's best guitar solos.
Oh yeah.
As far as for his capturing the feel, not about playing licks, but just the fact that he hits those emotional high points, with of course the whole band though. I mean, the way everybody's playing on that. I mean, even if you listen to the way the drums and the keyboards elevate that guitar solo, but it's one of the only solos that would listen to and then have to rewind back in the early days with the cassette tapes. You know, you rewind.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Hit rewind and hear it again because it was so good. You know.
Yeah.
And I also thought when earlier I was talking about Alex winning the guitar readers poll, for some reason I felt like it was because of that solo.
Maybe.
You know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it was or not, but I just felt like, well, damn, man, anybody that can make a solo like that song, Between the Wheels, they should be number one.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that was kind of like I mean, I know it doesn't sound like it, but to me, I know Alex was influenced by David Gilmour, but to me, that's kind of like one of those just epic, gut wrenching, total feel, emotion type solos. So. Yeah, that was definitely like on the vibe of like a David Gilmour type.
Yeah,
vibe.
it's just perfect. It's a perfect solo, you know. And but you know, not that I want to move to the end of the song, but I do think the way the song ends too, as it's fading out, if you really listen to it, and just the way when Neil hits that, they put all that echo on that drum. It's
yeah, I know.
You get goosebumps just if you're really into like if you're thinking about what the album's about, and if you're like inside the album and you listen to that, it is almost like
the bomb dropped.
Just or like that part of the some great movie that you just saw that that leaves you thinking, like you've never seen something like that where just like there's so much to your imagination from that, and just the statement of that, I mean, to me, it's just the perfect way to end. That might be the best Rush ending of any album because of that. To me, my opinion, it's just powerful. It's a very powerful statement and powerful just the way it ends. And it sounds like everything's just falling apart. Even the way Alex is playing those crazy dive bombs, and you hear the way the whole album is just kind of slowly fading out, and it's like everything's just like falling apart. Yeah, it's just beautiful. But anyways,
it's lyrically about stress and pressure. So yeah, that again ties into the whole grace under pressure thing for sure.
Right.
But yeah, to me, when I first read those lyrics, it was like all about different types of stress and pressure and that kind of thing.
How they were able to just capture a theme of some great lyrics and capture that musically. That's the thing about Rush.
Incredible.
That's incredible. Yeah, it's like that's one of the most amazing. I mean, yeah, you have all these other things about their musicianship and all that, but the way they were able to bring that together on an album like Grace Under Pressure and make it actually sound like what it's supposed to be. I mean, I don't know. That to me is like the highest of art you can do. Highest level art you can do is to create something that totally matches what whatever, if it's a lyric thing or a picture thing.
I think Rush was described, I know on Moving Pictures, they were described as cinematic because, the audio completely gave you the visual lyrically and musically. But I think every album, they were very cinematic sounding, not just Moving Pictures, of course. So,
agreed. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, Grace Under Pressure is another very cinematic album.
Also, I really quick have to give a shout out to Hugh Syme for that great album cover behind you, Sean. It's always, in fact, I have that album cover in a frame hanging up on my bedroom because that's my favorite Rush album cover. Most likely is that album cover was always I just love the tone of it, the blue, the going into the gray, and so anyways, I think that was worth mentioning is Hugh Syme's great Grace Under Pressure album cover painting. Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Looks like the nuclear warhead went off around.
Yeah. And of course, didn't Rush do that? Wasn't that their first portrait by a very famous? I forget his name, but there was a famous photographer. Might have to look that up. But that picture of them on the back.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we didn't talk about that. That's like
the first time they and it was like a famous photographer that they really wanted to work with. That they were and I wish I remembered his name. I almost feel I should, for bringing that up, I should know the guy's name. Maybe you could look it up and, insert it or something down there. Reed the idiot didn't know this guy's name. Anyway. But apparently, from what I understand, the photographer was excited about doing a rock band, but was kind of disappointed when he saw them because they did not look like, Motley Crue or something.
Rock stars, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, when he saw them, he was like, oh, they just look like regular guys. Oh well.
What am I going to do with this?
I'll do it anyways, but
They look very new wave on the back of.
They did, yeah. And everybody was cool with that because he was Neil Peart. They were just like, I don't know, he's badass, whatever, man.
All right, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Rushy Talk with Rush Hour. Hopefully you learned something about Grace Under Pressure. I know I did. Please like and subscribe below. Say goodbye, guys.
See ya.
Peace.
Until next time.
Rock and roll.
Rush.
Rush.
And